Man, he had it all. When I say he had it all, he had everything. He had the house on the hill, literally had the house on the hill. He had pretty much every car he wanted. He had money. He had his own business. He had his health. He had God. And he had probably the most important thing, or what should have been the most important thing to him, was he had a second chance and was able to remarry his wife and bring his family back together. And we don't always get those opportunities, but he had it. He had the opportunity and he took it. And then sadly, he fumbled it away. I'm talking about my father. I didn't plan on talking about this tonight until I I was having a conversation with somebody on social media, and we were talking about age and about having kids and divorce. We had gone through a divorce and talking about what's too old to have kids and is it too old to have kids. And I had said that my fear was, you know, having kids with somebody at my age and it not working out and then having to deal with family court in my 60s and 70s, you know, because that's a very real thing. Um, and I feel blessed that that's not my situation now. But the conversation was about that. And I said, I, I say that I don't want kids anymore because I fear that. But ultimately, it's in God's hands. I don't know that I would fall, that if I fall madly in love with somebody and they feel like forever, that I wouldn't want that. I don't know. Right now, I say no, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Don't know the future. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because I was driving while having this conversation. And while I was driving, I ended up in the neighborhood of where I used to live with my family when my mom and my father were uh, living and remarried. And it just brought back a whole bunch of memories. It's strange because I was having this conversation and to end up in that area during this conversation, it brought back a lot of old memories. And I just felt like I wanted to talk about it. So here we are. Welcome to episode 119. He had it all. I guess I should start by saying, like I always do when I talk about my father, that I have forgiven my father for everything in our past. By now, if you've been listening for the 4 years I've been doing this, you know pretty much my whole story when it comes to my father and I. But I want you guys to know, if you're new, that everything you're about to hear or anything you have heard since you've been here, I have forgiven my father for. I've grown, turning 50 next year, and I understand that everybody has to play their part in your life. And unfortunately, his part in my life was to fuck up royally and show me what not to do as a father and as a husband. Some of you may be asking, do you love him? Yeah, I do. I pray for him every day. And I don't exaggerate when I say I pray for him every day. I do. I pray for him, his peace. I pray for his health. I pray for him to forgive himself. And I pray that God somehow gets through to him again before it's too late. I pray every day for him. I think this came up tonight because I started thinking, man, this guy, he had everything a man could want, to the point where there are some people who knew me when I was in high school, in my latter years of high school, that thought we were just rich and that we had the greatest home life. And that was really far from the truth. But from an outsider looking in, it really did look like that. But he had it all. And I can say that because I'm a man now, like I said, pushing 50. And all I want is my peace. I want a good woman by my side. I want a peaceful home life. I want the home that I've always wanted. I want just my sanctuary, my the place that I call home and come home to, and it's warm and there's a woman there for me that loves me, and we are just sharing our lives together, growing old together, loving on each other and being there for each other. That's what I want. That's the dream, at least for me. And I started thinking how, things didn't end up working out for me with my marriage, and how, there's not going to be a second chance because we're just different. We're just not the same. And that dream for me, at least for the time being, is done. Now I'm working on building that dream alone. And it's not easy. And maybe some of you, some of you men that are listening to this right now, you're going through that as well. Maybe, you were hoping to build that life with your wife, and now you're not. And now you're trying to figure out how to build that same life, but start that life by yourself and then hopefully find the right partner. I started thinking this guy had the opportunity of a lifetime. For years he wanted my mom back. For years he wanted to be involved with her again, but couldn't figure it out because he was still living a crazy life, still partying, still out there in the streets, still doing everything he was doing. But if you asked him, he always said he wanted my mom. Out of anybody he was messing with, he wanted my mom back. And he got the opportunity. And on top of that, he had an opportunity with me to rebuild a relationship that was absolutely shit. By this time, I was a teenager, and yeah, I wasn't used to him being around, but he had the opportunity. It was a little different because my mom had not my daughter. I don't have a daughter. Had her daughter, which was my sister, my half sister. But I call her my sister because I don't believe half sister. She came from my mom. She's my sister. So my mom had her daughter, Crystal, and I believe she was 2 or 3 at the time. And they remarried, and we moved in together and started to build this life. At this time, he had his own body shop, which he, repaired cars and body work and painting and you name it, he did it, whether it be insurance work or custom paint work or whatever. That's what he did. And he was making a lot of money. He had cars that he was customizing that were making the cover or the inside of car magazines. He had probably 5, 6 cars at a time that were his personal cars. My mom had 1 or 2 cars. I had a car. I mean, we all had vehicles, and the refrigerator never went unstocked. We had a house on the hill, the East Hills in San Jose. It had a pool. It had, I want to say, 4 bedrooms. It had a big, huge kitchen. It had a runway for the dogs on the side of the house. It had a deck out in the front of the house. Deer would come out in the front in the morning. You would see deer. Had it all, man. Worked for himself. Didn't ever have to answer to anybody because he was the boss. He owned his own business, and he had a loyal woman by his side. She did all his paperwork. She did all his tax work. She did all the anything that had to do with admin work or whatever. She did it. And then slowly, it just started to trickle away. Things started to get to his head. Things just he started to become popular. What I mean by that is bigger names started to come to him to fix their cars, to paint their cars, and a lot of that started to get to his head. Some of you may know, because I've told this story to some of you guys who listen. My dad did a lot of work for a bunch of rappers, um, and some radio stations out here in the Bay Area. My dad is the one who painted the Cadillac that you see on Too Short's album cover. That Cadillac was sitting at my dad's shop for quite some time, probably close to a year. I know because we used to have to kickstart the battery to move it in and out every day uh, when they were working on stuff. Yeah, he did some work for Ant Banks. He did some work for a guy named Randy, who was their manager as well for Too Short and him, and and Ant Banks. And all the local radio stations used to bring their vans and whatnot to my dad's shop. So when I tell you that my dad was making a lot of money, he was. Unfortunately, by the time it was time for me to maybe learn how to do what he did, it was all gone. Not that I wanted to be in that industry because I didn't, but I had worked there enough to where I was picking up stuff and learning. And, you know, had I stayed there longer after high school or whatever, uh, I probably could have done something with it. But during that time, we just we were disconnected. I didn't recognize him anymore. There was people working at his shop that he would have never hired before. You know, my dad used to run a really tight ship. He's an ex-Marine, and he used to have uniforms at his shop. So everybody had to wear a uniform. You couldn't be there and not be in uniform. He'd send you home. And slowly but surely, you could tell that things were changing with him because people were showing up with whatever they wanted to show up in, as long as they just showed up for work. And I remember going there a few times, and because he refused to allow me to wash my car at a car wash, he refused to the point where it would be an argument, and he would threaten to take my car if I took it to a car wash. So I would, anytime I needed a car wash, I would have to go to the shop, which was always out of my way. And then he would ask the guys on his team to come out and while they were washing other cars to try and include mine as well, which I hated because I didn't ever really want to be the owner's son who just brought his car in to have the guys wash it. You know what I mean? There was something about that I didn't like. It just wasn't me. But I remember bringing my car there, and there were guys just wearing jeans, and they weren't wearing shirts. They had their shirts off, and they were washing my car, and they were all tatted up. And I remember my dad, thinking of my dad going, what is going on? Like if I was a regular customer and I had never been here before, if I were to pull up here right now to see if this shop could help me, I wouldn't even pull into this driveway because look at the people that are working here. Like I wouldn't feel safe here. And I sure as hell wouldn't feel safe leaving my car here so they can go through it and work on it. It just looked like it started to look really hood, if you know what I mean, when it never was like that. And so there were so many things that you could tell were going on, that things were just changing. You know, we go through life, and most of us who have a good head on our shoulders, we want the dream, right? We want the wife who has our back, who loves us, who supports us in our decision making. And in turn, we do the same for them. We support them in whatever they're trying to do with their life. We have children. We raise the children. We love our children. We do family outings. We do all of the things, right? We buy a home together. We pay the bills together. We go on trips. We whatever you're supposed to do as a family, we do it all. All the experiences. That's what we live for. And I don't think we realize that if we don't do it right the first time, there's no guarantee that we'll have a second time. And I started thinking about my my dad and and the situation that he was in. And it started to really weigh on me, man. It broke my heart because at my age now, that's what I want. I want what he had. and I don't have it. And it makes me wonder that if he was smart enough to keep it all, to control his ego, to keep it all together, to keep his ego in check, and to cherish what he has at home, where would I be right now? Like if he were to set that example, would I be in a better place? Would I now have a home? Would I have a wife? Would I have the career that I want? Will I be making the money? Would I have been making the money that I really wanted to make? I just got to thinking about that, and I got angry, and then I just got sad, man, to be honest. I got sad because I know his situation now, and it's not good. Nobody wants to grow old alone. They don't. I remember asking my mom if she was okay after the second divorce, and I was just concerned for her, you know what I mean? Like any son would be. And I remember her saying, "You know what my only fear is? I don't want to be alone. I just don't want to be alone. I don't want to die alone." And I look at both my parents now, and they're alone, both of them. And it didn't have to be that way. You know, I wish I could have fixed my situation. I never got the opportunity to fix it. And I'm okay with that now because I know since then God has shown me that He has other plans for me. I don't know if there'll be a second opportunity for me. I don't. I pray that there is. I pray that the happy me finds the happy version of someone else and we fall so deeply in love to where it's never been more evident that we were right for each other. I pray for that because I don't want to be alone either. I'm okay being alone right now because I'm working on things, setting myself up, setting my children up. But I don't want to end up alone. And I know that there's someone out there who is of the opposite sex saying the same thing. And I know, God willing, we will cross paths. I still pray for my dad every day. I pray for his peace. I pray for his health. I pray for him to get rid of all that anger. And I pray for his happiness. Pray for my mom as well. And I even pray for my ex wife every day. that she finds happiness, that she finds peace for her health, for everything. And I pray for myself and, of course, my children. We're not always guaranteed a second chance. And if you have it all right now, if you're in a better position, if you're in a position similar to what I told you about my father and kind of swerving all over the road, maybe you should pull over. Maybe you should pull over, turn the car off, and start thinking about regrouping. Because if you lose it, you may never get it back. That's all I got, guys. I love you. I hope you guys are doing well. I always appreciate you guys listening. And like always, you can check out my website. It's raymolina.com. My Instagram is itsraymolina. The podcast is The Perfect Mess Pod. That is also TikTok. And for YouTube, it's youtube.com/The Perfect Mess Pod. Once you get there, please hit subscribe and the notification bell, and you will get all the notifications for every piece of content that I put up. All right. That's all I have. Like I always say, my life isn't perfect. Oftentimes it is a mess, but for me, it is the perfect mess. Peace.